You keep thinking that if you punish yourself hard enough, you'll finally be better. You replay your mistakes. You beat yourself up in silence. You think guilt is the only path to growth. But here's the hard truth. You won't heal by hating yourself. Hey, welcome back to our channel. The first scene is called Hook. You feel trapped in a cycle of repeating mistakes, and you keep asking yourself why. Why does everything feel so difficult? Why can't I seem to get ahead? Why am I always falling behind? This hook lays out the core issue of the video and introduces the main character's struggle. They are caught in a loop of their own making, repeating the same mistakes and wondering why they can't break free. You look at your life and you see patterns. Patterns of procrastination, patterns of bad decisions, patterns of disappointment, and it's not because you're lazy or careless. It's because you've convinced yourself that this is who you are. There's no fixing you because there's nothing wrong with you. Or is it? The second scene is called The Trap of Self. This is where the main character begins to explore their feelings of guilt and shame. They start to realize that their negative thoughts and self-criticism may be the very thing keeping them stuck. But instead of acknowledging it, they double down on the hate, hoping it will somehow motivate them to take action. We're conditioned to believe that being harsh equals being responsible, that self-discipline must come from shame, that if we don't criticize ourselves, we're lazy. So, we internalize our failures, and we turn our inner voice into our biggest bully. Self-hate becomes our crutch. It feels good in the moment, like it justifies our inaction. But self-hate doesn't build better habits. It builds fear. It paralyzes growth. The third scene is called What Guilt Actually Does. This is a turning point in the video where the main character starts to question the effectiveness of their self. They begin to see that it's not helping them improve, but rather making them feel worse. They start to wonder if there might be a different way, a better way to approach personal growth. Guilt has a function. It's meant to nudge us to reflect, to recognize when we've strayed from our values or made a less than stellar choice. It's supposed to be a gentle reminder that guides us back on track. But when guilt becomes identity, when we define ourselves by our mistakes, instead of our potential, it loses its function. When we constantly berate ourselves for past missteps, we stop reflecting. We just spiral. We say I'm such a failure instead of, I made a bad choice, and I can do better. One leads to learning. The other leads to paralysis. The fourth scene is called The Healing You're Avoiding. This is where the main character is confronted with the truth about themselves. They learn that the problem isn't their guilt, but their refusal to forgive themselves. They realize that they've been avoiding the healing process because it feels too uncomfortable. Here's the truth. You already know your flaws. You don't need another reminder. What you need is permission. Permission to be kind to yourself, even while you're working on yourself. That's not laziness. That's healing with love, not fear. Most of us go through life believing that we must be at our harshest with ourselves. In order to be effective, we convince ourselves that the more pain we inflict on our present selves for past mistakes, the more justified our actions will be. But the opposite is true. Harming yourself is just that. Harming yourself, it doesn't improve your circumstances, nor does it make you a better person. It makes you desperate, maybe even broken. And what kind of life is that? Broken. The fifth scene is called What Growth Actually Looks Like. This is where the main character begins to embrace the idea of self-compassion and forgiveness. They start to see that true growth comes from a place of self-respect, not They learn to treat themselves with kindness and understanding, recognizing that they are worthy of love and respect. When you decide to embark on the journey of self-improvement, you must first acknowledge that you're human, not perfect, not flawless, just human. And being human means you're going to mess up. You're going to make mistakes. It's inevitable. Instead of fighting it, accept it, embrace it, learn from it. Growth isn't fueled by punishment. It's sustained by You don't need louder criticism. You need a gentler approach. An approach that acknowledges your missteps without tearing you down. An approach that says, I'm not proud of that choice, but I'm still worthy of change. You don't need to be perfect to start over. You just need to believe you're worth the effort. The sixth scene is called Closing Thought. This is the final scene of the video. The main character has now fully embraced self-forgiveness and compassion. They have learned that punishing themselves for past mistakes does not make them a better person. Rather, it stunts their growth and prevents them from living a fulfilling life. They are now ready to move forward with a newfound sense of hope and determination. Be kind. Be consistent. You'll grow better that way. Sometimes in the darkest moments, when the weight of our mistakes feels unbearable, it's easy to fall into the trap of We convince ourselves that the more we despise ourselves, the more committed we'll be to changing. But this couldn't be further from the truth. Hating ourselves doesn't fix anything. It doesn't mend the fractured pieces of our past or pave a clear path to the future we desire. In fact, it does quite the opposite. It keeps us stuck. It holds us captive to the very problems we're trying to escape. When we pour acid on the soil of our lives, we shouldn't expect a beautiful garden to grow. Likewise, if we saturate our minds with self-deprecating thoughts, we shouldn't be surprised when our spirits wither and die. So how do we break free from this cycle? How do we escape the prison we've built for ourselves? The answer lies in a simple yet profound shift in perspective. We must learn to treat ourselves with the very thing we wish to cultivate within us: kindness. Think about it. When was the last time you showed up for yourself? When was the last time you offered yourself the same compassion and understanding you so readily extend to others? We can't expect to grow if we don't nurture the conditions for growth. We and expect to be kind and compassionate towards others. If we do embody these traits ourselves, our capacity for love and understanding knows no bounds. But somewhere along the way, we've forgotten this. Somewhere between chasing our dreams and facing our fears, we've lost sight of the beauty of simply being. We've all heard the saying, treat others the way you want to be treated. But what if we flipped this on its head and applied it to ourselves? Treat yourself the way you want to be treated. Wouldn't that be a revolutionary concept? Imagine extending to yourself the same kindness, patience, and understanding you so readily offer to those around you. Imagine embracing your flaws and imperfections as stepping stones on your journey, as opportunities for growth and learning rather than stumbling blocks to success. If we could all learn to treat ourselves with the same love and care we so desperately seek from others, wouldn't that be a step towards creating a better world, both for ourselves and for everyone around us? So the next time you find yourself drowning in the depths of self-loathing, pull yourself out and extend a hand of compassion to that part of you. Acknowledge your struggles, embrace your flaws, and commit to treating yourself with the very best of intentions. Because in doing so, you're not only healing yourself, but also paving the way for a better, kinder world. And with that said, thanks for watching.